All right, guys, let's settle down for our next section. Bingo over. Thank you. Thank you all for your energy, though. I hope you find it engaging. And did you share your ideas? Did you? Okay, thank you. All right, a big thank you as well to our facilitators for leading those engaging conversations. We are now excited to introduce our first roundtable session for day 2, called Main Character Energy, highlighting young leaders and success. This conversation shines a spotlight on youth who have broken barriers and achieved success across advocacy, entrepreneurship, and leadership. It is my pleasure to introduce the moderator for this important conversation, Isaiah, who will be joined by Vicky, Adeline, and Zaran. Let's welcome them.
Ever heard someone say youth are too young to be leaders? That they don't have enough experience, or that they are too underqualified? Well, these trailblazers are here to prove you wrong. In this session, Main Character Energy, we will meet young talents who are rewriting the narrative of what leadership looks like when youth lead the way. Because on this stage, everyone has main character energy.
All right, good morning, everybody. I hope everyone's doing really well. My name is Asia. I am the founder of Dilato and director of content at Marlowe, a mental health startup here in Toronto. And I'm very excited to greet our special guest today and talk about their stories being main characters in the space. Before we begin, I just want to welcome all three of you and give a brief introduction to the crowd so they get a better idea of who you are. So, Vicky, you're a University of Toronto researcher specializing in computational biology and AI for health. The previous people and culture coordinator at Let's Stop AIDS and the founder of Wrap and Swallow. Adeline, you're a youth activist, researcher, and founder of She Rising, advancing gender justice and education through intersectional, community-led approaches. And Zarin, last but not least, is a high school student and UNICEF Canada youth advocate dedicated to amplifying youth voices and advancing equitable, sustainable futures. How are we all feeling this morning? Good, ready to rock and roll with the questions? All right, Vicky, I'm gonna hit you first with the first question. Your work bridges AI, data, and social impact with Wrap and Swallow. Tell us a little bit more about Wrap and Swallow for those who don't know, and how do you see innovation reshaping sexual health advocacy in the next 5 to 10 years?
Hi, everyone. All right, so Wrap plus Swallow was this idea that I created in high school. I was competing in Let's Stop AIDS trademark competition for high school students to produce an HIV prevention campaign. So this was back in 2024, and what I was thinking was, okay, I want to produce something that's maybe slightly impressive to university applications and also actually make a difference. So after spending a couple months volunteering at Let's Stop AIDS, I produced Wrap plus Swallow, which is a dual stream prevention campaign for HIV awareness. Wrap plus Swallow, Wrap focusing on using condoms in, sexual activity, and also Swallow being adhering to pre-exposure prophylaxis dosing schedules, both of which are huge problems within LGBTQ plus communities that may be at risk of contracting HIV. Asia, could we repeat the question, please? Sorry.
Yeah, no worries. Your work bridges AI, data, and social impact with Wrap and Swallow. How do you see innovation reshaping sexual health advocacy in the next 5 to 10 years?
In terms of innovation shaping sexual health advocacy, I have to say that I think a lot of youth don't understand that at the foundation of every single sexual health campaign is statistics. Quite literally everything that's building off of AI tools or healthcare tools, it's all based on the field of statistics, and people don't understand it's not just like biases or social biases that can skew how we perceive statistics, but also there's clinical statistics that we need to use in research to make sure if a piece of research is statistically accurate, let's say. So in that case, I'd have to say that innovation-wise, I'd probably really recommend most youth advocates to really familiarize themselves with the field of statistics to understand how data can be manipulated in the favor of a certain project or in our interpretation of a certain event. So in terms of technological innovation, everything from AI to clinical research to just like social events is built off the field of statistics. So that's how I feel innovation is probably going to be built.
I think that's such a great answer. I know on my end in the startup world, we're trying to make a difference. Data always tells a story. And in order to make impact from a consumer level, we connect based on stories. So if we can learn how to tell that narrative through the numbers with that proof, but then hit the emotional part with why those numbers matter, I can definitely see that helping us bring more innovation that is palatable and understanding for all people across the field. Adeline, I have a next question for you. She Rising blends grassroots organizing with academic research. How do you define intersectional leadership in practice?
Hi, everyone. So for me, intersectional leadership isn't something that I read. It's something that I had to live. I started She Rising when I was 18 in a town in Kerala, India. Initially, that purpose was giving free tutoring classes to young girls who were falling behind in school. But it quickly became something deeper because I realized that their struggles wasn't academic. It was very much structural, social, and emotional. And one day, one of my girls called me crying because her father just passed away. And she said, Chichi, I want to tell you about this to you first. And that moment changed everything for me because I realized that leadership isn't something that you do standing above people. It's about standing beside them because you are becoming that space where you are creating a space where everyone feels safe enough to be themselves, right? And and at the same time, even within our She Rising team, I have seen that in my team that there are people joining from different parts of the world. And when we discuss topics like gender-based violence or period poverty, we all end up saying the same word, but the stories are never the same. So then I realized that in this, every single person in this world have a different kind of story, a different kind of privilege, and most importantly, a different kind of pain. So it's very much we should recognize about the fact that even if we don't recognize the difference, we might end up building something that only works for few. So yes.
Thank you for that, and something that really spoke. Something that really resonated with me with that answer was that we're not trying, as leaders, we're not trying to be above each other. It's not a hierarchy. We're all actually at the same level holding hands. It reminds me of my favorite quote, when a tide rises, it lifts all boats. And we move as a collective. And I think that is the best way that even we may come from different backgrounds and fields, the intersectional way of working together is if we are as one and working as a unity. So thank you for that. And Zarin, my next question for you is, as a youth advocate with UNICEF, how do you navigate being taken seriously at such a young age?
Awesome. So, good morning, everyone. Like Asia said, my name is Zarin. For a bit of context, I'm a high school student. I've been working with UNICEF Canada for almost 3 years now. This is a lot more nerve-wracking than like my typical school presentation, so I'll try my best. But yeah, I started when I was 15. Honestly, I was one of the shyest like people you would ever meet. I wouldn't talk to anyone. I'd stay in my own corner. I would avoid conversations. I would have avoided this panel if you asked me 2 years ago. But I think the biggest thing that helped me in terms of my confidence and as a young person is engaging with new people and engaging with change makers and like-minded youth. So at UNICEF Canada, I work at a program called the Youth Advocacy Program, where I work with youth range from ages 14 to 21. And they all share similar interests or passions as I do. And I find it easier to talk about issues that I find interest in. And with that in mind, I'm able to connect with other youth, knowing that I'm not alone in my own advocacy journey, giving me confidence and giving me the confidence that I need to approach change makers, to approach policymakers and politicians in general. And that's what gives me the confidence to, I guess, further my advocacy journey.
I love that answer because I feel authenticity is what spoke to me a lot when you were talking, that genuine human connection where age just becomes optics and it comes down to what's your purpose. And if you're in alignment with that, people will resonate with your story and prove to people why you're here because you want to be a part of that mission, and age is not a discriminatory factor of that. I have a great question for all of you that I personally was really excited to ask, and I'm sure the audience would love to hear about. Again, tapping a lot into your main character, we go through a lot of plot twists, as some may say. I would love to hear, can you share a challenge or a failure moment in your journey that shaped your resilience as a leader? Vicky, I'll start with you first, and we'll move all the way down.
In terms of challenges, I think everyone goes through hurdles along the way, But one of the greatest challenges I faced as a youth leader was most definitely trying to build a team of people who were as passionate about the things that I was passionate about, and people who were committed to the mission and not just trying to, gain some sort of short-term benefit. So I'd have to say that probably one of the biggest challenges is understanding what's worth it short-term versus long-term. That's one of the biggest things I struggled with. Like, what are you motivated by? Is it by external validation? Because that runs out once you win the prize or once you get the highest grade in the class. What really matters is if whatever you're doing right now in this present day fits into the longer narrative that you're forming. That's what really matters. And understanding the value in that was probably the biggest challenge I faced in high school, in early university. I'm in my first year of university right now, by the way. So navigating that whole journey is probably the biggest challenge I've faced.
For me, when I started She Rising, it was just an initiative. It was not a nonprofit at all during the initial stages. And I still remember those days where I call my friends, my people of networks to join this new initiative. And initially, everyone was so excited to join this. But slowly, somewhere, everyone started to diminish their energy, and people started to stop showing up. And I was questioning what is really happening, because am I doing this wrong? And at the same time, during that time, I didn't have any kind of support or even to look at someone and say, oh, they have did this before. It was just me, my vision, and a lot of uncertainties. But then there was moments where I just recognized that, oh, like I might probably need to stop. But even those moments, there is voice inside me telling, maybe things might get figured out. At the end of the day, you know why you're doing this. And that became my anchor, realizing that within my experience, resilience isn't something that you build when everything is right. It's built when you face uncertainties, when you face challenges. And it's very important to recognize that fact and move forward, because you have your story to be heard in front of the world. So it's very important to get your story up and to understand about the fact that many people like you also experience the similar challenges. So it's important to recognize that and move forward with resilience, even any kind of challenges or uncertainties that come. That would be my biggest challenge I have faced.
For me personally, I actually want to share a fear that I had. Coming into the program when I was 15, I had the fear of being unheard. And what I mean by that is I joined the program thinking, well, I'm just a 15-year-old kid. What are parliamentarians going to think about when a 15-year-old kid is talking about education? But there's one particular conversation that I had with an MP. His name was Taylor Bachrach. I think he's a former MP now, but every November, UNICEF Canada brings us all to Ottawa. So this coming week, I'm going to Ottawa as well, and they host an event where we're able to go to Parliament and talk to MPs, where they just come in and come out and give us their thoughts, and we're able to talk to them. And so I had this one conversation with Taylor Bachrach, and the conversation we had was about something that he proposed to me. It was called Vote 16. I'm not sure if you guys are familiar with it, but it was essentially lowering the voting age to 16. And that was something that changed my perspective entirely, because I realized that there genuinely are people that care about what we have to say as young people. After that, I started to approach different people. I started to attend more events, such as NoTimeToWait, because I realized that young people have a voice, and the only thing is we need to step out of our comfort zones and to approach that. Because if we sit back and just watch everything, change is never going to happen. And so you need to overcome that fear and overcome that challenge to see the change, because change takes time, especially in politics. Change will never happen instantly. right? You need to start as soon as you can and overcome that fear.
Thank you so much for all of you sharing your vulnerability. I think to me, vulnerability is a superpower and it connects us deeper to the people around us. Some may be strangers or friends who we now have a deeper connection with, or people who want to rally behind us in those movements. I do want to do one quick fire round question before we leave it to the crowd for Q&A. Many young people, especially in this room, want to step into advocacy, but don't know where to start. What's your best first step advice?
First step is literally just realizing everyone that you look up to is just a human, and everyone who's in your position was scared once as well. I know it's like incredibly cliche and trivial almost to say, but we truly only do live once, YOLO. So the most important thing to do is find out your passion, find out what you're obsessed with, and commit to the end and release it onto the world. There's really nothing else. There's no other purpose you have in this world, really. So that's probably my answer. Don't be afraid, YOLO. Sorry.
In my experience, I would say, guys, never ever underestimate the power of small steps that you take. It's huge. Because when I started She Rising, it was such a lonely start. And what I really had in my journey was conviction. And the conviction that turned into these small steps, then you take another step, then you take another step. Even there might be times where you think, oh, this is not enough, right? But even in those thoughts, you must understand that one day when you look back, all these small steps was preparing you for something huge, bigger. So don't wait to feel ready. That's I want to. So please remember that never ever underestimate small steps.
My piece of advice would be just to start now. I mean, there's no better time than the present. I mean, I said it before. Like, change doesn't happen instantly. Change takes time, especially in politics. And if you do want to make a change, I think the best case would just be start now. Attend events like NoTimeToWait. Attend events that are hosted by other organizations such as UNICEF Canada. Learn about the topic that you care about. Just stay educated about that issue and just try to make change, whether that's through connections or just speaking at events or just trying to spread your message to other people. Just try your best and start now.
Thank you so much for sharing your story and your answers, and I've personally learned a lot from you. I'd like to take it to the floor and open up Q&A. We'll pass a mic around if you have one, but feel free to put up your hand. Oh, we got one right over here.
I didn't get the name of the guy in the blue shirt. Yeah. Okay, Zarin. What kind of, are you in high school? Or
Yeah, I'm in grade 12.
what kind of classes or what led you to getting into politics and having those conversations with MPs?
So that's a great question. So my parents who are sitting here, they've known that I've cared about change making in education for the longest. I didn't find the chance to find a platform to actually talk about it. So it's actually a funny story. I was listening to music, and then I got an ad about the youth advocacy program at UNICEF Canada. And so I told my mom about it. She was like, oh yeah, I heard about that. And so she encouraged me to apply. And so I applied, I got in, and like I said before, I didn't think much of it at first, but once I saw that people cared, that changed my entire mindset. It flipped everything for me, and that's when I focused on, okay, I know what I want to focus on, here's how I'm gonna do it, and I'm gonna focus on that in my coming time with UNICEF Canada.
All right, might have time for one more, but then we're just gonna wrap it up afterwards. Is there any last minute questions before we close it? All right, we got one in the front right here.
Hello? Okay, hi. I have a question to all of you. How do you make space for your personal life and also advocacy? And do you find any inspiration in your personal life that keeps you going forward and motivate you to continue with your organizations or your advocacy? Thank you.
Thank you. That's a great question. And I'd have to say that honestly, I don't find a separation between my advocacy and my actual work. Like I said, I'm mostly focused on computational biology. In U of T, your first year is always non-specialized first if you're doing the life sciences. I'm currently non-specialized, but in my free time, what I do is literally just read scientific studies or reach out to researchers or go to conferences and talk to computational biologists or bioinformaticians about what I'm interested in. And basically, the field of computational biology is pretty interesting because it's mostly on tech and bio. So understanding that intersection, that research has so many real-life implications. There's no separation for me, really. So I just live the life.
I don't know whether you have heard a quote by Emma Watson. It's one of the famous quote that she presented during one of the UN assemblies. And it was like, if it's not me, who? If it's now, when? There's a very powerful quote that she said. And in my day-to-day life, that really gave me inspiration. Because me personally, my story began in India. And I'm an international student in here at York University. And my story began when I was a very studious student back then. And I had opportunities, but suddenly people started coming to my parents and saying that, oh, she's a girl, and I have 2 young brothers. So she's a girl child, you should be better, take her to other schools. Like, girls are not investment kind of conversations. And that really struck my entire life when I was just a teenage year. And that was the motivation to start She Rising, as just giving you guys a background. So I remember seeing Emma Watson's this powerful speech that she had given. If it's not me, who? If it's now, when? And then I realized, okay, I need to start this organization. And during this growth of this initiative, now it's registered nonprofit in Canada. During this entire journey, it's always the energy surrounded by the people. I'm also sociology major as well. So in my day-to-day basis, I read a lot about from my background. So it's always about people. It's about how surrounding it is. So.
I see Serena waving her hand, so I'm going to hand it back to Asia.
I'm sure you can also talk to our speakers after the panel and find them during the social recess in case you have any further questions. But let's give a big round of applause for our speakers. And we will wrap up the session. Thank you so much, guys.
So another round of applause for them. If my kids don't turn up